I am so tan. Alright, so hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Right now I'm in Ukraine, so that's why you have a different background. I'm tanner, I'm not wearing a lot of makeup, all reasons. Well, anyway, so I wanted to film this video because I was sort of inspired by me traveling out of the country, and I figured that this would be an interesting video to film. I'm going to be filming basically like a tip video. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this video yet, but it's pretty much going to be like how to survive in a foreign country if you don't speak the language. If there's a language barrier, how do you overcome that language barrier or just break free of the limitations that it can give you. So yeah, that's pretty much what this video is going to be about. I've had a lot of experience traveling out of the country. I have been very lucky to be able to do so. I love traveling, I love meeting new people, seeing new places, and in some cases I've had to deal with the language barrier, but in other cases I have not had to deal with one. But this video is going to be a compilation of the tips that I have accumulated and also tips I've gathered from other people who also travel, things I've read about, people that I've heard from, and just basically a mishmash of sources. But hopefully this will help you out if you are curious as to, hey, how can I travel if I don't speak the language? Like, how can I be comfortable in a place where I'm not understood? You know what, I should probably close the window. Wait, that's so much more silent. Okay, so tip number one, even if you don't speak the language, try and speak it. So many people, I feel like, tend to assume that people around the world speak the same language they do. This I find very common in many Americans. So many Americans believe that if you go to a different place, someone will speak English, and there's so many people that have been asking, hey, do you speak English? Do you speak English? Do you speak English? Without even attempting to speak the language of the place that they're actually in. So here's what I have to say about this. If you go to a different country, to a different place where people have been living in this area and they speak an official language that's not English, or that's not the language that you're speaking, you should be trying to speak that language. Even if you think you'll be messing up, try. With the internet, you can connect to so many different resources. You can really just look up simple phrases in blank language, or you can just try and use Google Translate, and you can get an amazing resource for yourself, for your travels. You will be able to translate and learn about simple phrases. And if you look on Google Translate, if you use Google Translate, there's this icon that I think I'll show on this side of the screen. There's this sound icon that you can press, and Google Translate will actually have someone sound out the way that a phrase is supposed to be sounded out. So if you are confused about how to say something, if you don't know how to say it, then just click that icon, and Google will automatically just tell you how to say this phrase or this word or whatever you want to say. And if you're confused, you can click it again, and what it does is that it will repeat the phrase only in a slower speed, so you're able to fully get what this phrase is supposed to sound like. So once you have that translation, just write it down either in your phone or on a slip of paper or in several places. You never know what you might need. And if you come across someone, you're able to say at least, hi, can I get a taxi? Or hi, where's a train station? Or please and thank you, and etc. So even if you do not speak the language, you are able to get around with these simple phrases. And here's the thing, people in this country that you're going to, if you do not speak the language, they'll probably understand that you don't speak the language very well, just based on your accent. Because for instance, I speak Russian, but I do so with an American accent. So even if I'm speaking Russian fluently, people that I'm speaking to, they know that I'm not a native speaker because of my accent. So they understand that I'm trying to speak Russian, and even if I mess up on a word, which does happen, I am a human being, they are understanding and they're okay with it. More so than they would be if I came up to them and said, "Hey, do you speak English?" And just like not even bother to at least try and speak their language. So if you're in a new place, speak the language. Try and speak some phrases from the language. And if you meet a nice person, and chances are you will, then if they speak English, they will try and have a conversation with you in English. And even if they don't speak English, you can figure something out. Do not underestimate people. They can be really, really kind. And if they see that you're trying to speak their language, they will appreciate it and they will think, hey, this is a person that actually wants to speak my language, and instead of conversing with me in the language that they feel comfortable in, they're trying to speak the language that I feel comfortable in, and they will appreciate that. The next thing is be confident. Do not assume that you will be pummeled with stones if you speak something or if you say something incorrectly. If you're saying a phrase that you're unfamiliar with, be as confident as you can be in your delivery. Speak with a good volume and speak as clearly as possible. Please don't get frustrated if they can't understand you. They are not doing that on purpose. If they can't understand you, just try and say it again, and don't beat yourself up if you get it wrong. Chances are you're probably going to get it wrong anyway. Just try and be as confident as possible, and confidence will take you through any situation. Trust me on that. You will get a lot further if you're saying something as clearly as you can and at a good volume than if you are just mumbling something and trying to not draw attention to yourself in a negative way. Just be clear, be concise about what you want, and you will get results. Number 3, if you can, and you probably have a phone, you probably have access to a computer, you probably have the internet, try and find out about transportation ahead of time. Do not wait until you're in the airport in a foreign country where you don't speak the language too well to try and find transportation. I feel like this is a mistake that so many people make. Even if people travel often, sometimes they just assume that the transportation is going to be similar in a certain country as it is to another country. Or sometimes if they see, hey, yeah, the transportation here is the metro or the subway, and I have been to another place where I've used the subway, it's going to be the same thing. It's not going to be the same thing, really. For example, the transportation in New York City, the best transportation is the subway, right? However, the subway system in New York City is completely different than it is in Washington, D.C., at least in my opinion. So when I had to go to New York City, I had to figure out how to use the subway system, and that was in English. So before you land in your destination, before you arrive, make sure you have pulled something up on your phone ahead of time and just see how to get to a certain place. Figure out what trains you have to take, how long it takes to get there. Try to have different routes planned, because you never know. There might be construction, there might be traffic, something may happen. You do want to have alternatives. Also, this is a helpful thing. Make sure that you have printouts, because sometimes your phone might be a little bit slower in a foreign country. Even if you have a plan that works internationally, it's just better to print something out rather than relying on electronics, because electronics, they die. They might not work properly, and it's just better to have a printout as an alternative. Just in case you cannot use your phone, here is a printout. Just make sure you have a printout. Just try and get that done before you get to your destination, so you don't have to be worried about how to get to a certain place if you're not sure how to get there. Another tip that I want to mention is try and find out about the customs and the etiquette in a country before you go, because I feel like there is a difference between etiquette and mannerisms and politeness in different countries. For example, I'm someone that always likes to make eye contact with someone and smile whenever I see someone. It may sound weird, but it's my thing. I like to do it. I guess it's because I live in the United States and I'm used to doing it there. I feel like I want to be a very open person. I want to communicate. So I do like to make eye contact and smile at someone whenever I see someone on the street, even if I don't know them. But if you do that, for example, here in Ukraine, it's not considered normal. It's just considered a little bit weird, and people might even find it really not polite if you're making eye contact with a stranger and smiling. So I had to make sure that I knew about that because it's a habit almost. So because I was able to sort of inform myself of this little quirk that people here don't tend to really appreciate as much, I can try and prevent myself from doing this mannerism that might not be as accepted in Ukraine as it is in the US. But it is helpful to know about things like that in advance. I mean, I just use this as an example. There's so many different countries around the world and so many kinds of people, so people have their own way of doing things. But just look up what country you're visiting and the etiquette and the mannerisms, popular phrases in that country. Use the internet. It can be your best friend. And that's actually my 5th tip. Use the internet. We have this amazing tool and it's available to so many people, and I feel like if you're going to a new country, using the internet can be so incredibly helpful. You can find helpful new sites, you can find locations, you can even find the little out of the way places that tourists don't really usually go and visit but still have this unique sense of culture. I personally love using the internet to go and try and find those unique out of the way places that usually don't get featured in bold letters in travel guides and all that. So I love using the internet. It can help you in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. So that's pretty much the end of this video. I know that this was a little bit short and this is kind of a deviation from my standard types of videos, but I want to try and do some more travel kinds of videos since I am traveling right now. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in another video. Bye guys.